In the year 1843, in a very average village called Middleford, nothing very important happened. It was not raining and not sunny. The weather was just there. People walked slowly, not fast, not very slow, just medium. The village had a post office, not a big post office, not a small post office, just a normal-sized post office. It had one door, one window. That was enough. Every day, Mr. Harold, the postmaster, woke up at 6:03 a.m. Not 6, not 6:05, exactly 6:03. He looked at his ceiling for 11 minutes before getting up. He didn't hurry. There was no reason to hurry. He drank tea. The tea was warm. Not hot, not cold, just warm. He didn't feel anything while drinking it. He walked to the post office. It took him exactly 18 minutes. He passed 3 houses. He never looked at them. He already knew they were there. At 9 a.m., a letter delivery was supposed to arrive, but it arrived at 9:07 instead. 7 minutes late. No one was upset. They just said, "Oh." People stood in a line to collect letters. They didn't talk much. One man coughed once. Everyone nodded. No one asked why he coughed. The first person received a letter. It said, "Hello, I hope you are fine." He said, "I am fine." Then he went home. Another person got a letter that said, "Nothing important, just writing." He didn't reply. A farmer named Albert got no letters. He waited in line anyway. When he reached the counter, Mr. Harold said, "You have no letters." Albert said, "I know." Then he left. No one asked why he waited. At 3 p.m., the post office closed, but no one left. People stood there, wondering why they were still there. Some people blinked. Nothing changed. At 4:15 p.m., someone said, "The grass is growing." Everyone looked at the grass. It was indeed growing, very slowly. They watched it for 37 minutes. Then they went home. The next day was exactly the same. Nothing happened quickly. Nothing happened slowly. Things just happened. And that was the whole story. Nothing more. In the year 1849, in the average town of Lower Hemsworth, something mildly unusual, but not very exciting, happened. The town council held a meeting that would eventually lead to the creation of one of the dullest laws in human history, the shoelace tax regulation. Lower Hemsworth was not famous for anything. It was not too big and not too small, with a total population of 389 people, 46 cows, 19 sheep, and one very tired-looking donkey named Jeffrey. Most people worked as shoemakers, not because they loved shoes, but because their fathers were shoemakers, and their fathers' fathers were also shoemakers, and nobody ever thought of doing anything else. Every day, the people tied their shoelaces, not too tight, not too loose, just normally. Some people used the loop and pull method, others used the twist and tie method, and a few, very few, used the mysterious double knot strategy. There was no rule about how to tie shoelaces until one day a letter arrived. It came at 3:15 p.m., not 3:14, not 3:16, exactly 3:15 p.m. on a Wednesday. The letter was from the Royal Department of Minor Affairs. It stated very clearly that every pair of shoelaces must now be taxed. The people of Lower Hemsworth said, Not what? Not Why? Just, A town meeting was held. No one was in a hurry. They started at 11 a.m., took a tea break at 11:07, resumed at 11:19, and discussed shoelaces for 3.5 hours. Nobody raised their voice. Nobody had strong opinions. Nobody had weak opinions either. They just had no opinions. They discussed shoelaces made of cotton, wool, rope, and hemp. They discussed shoelace length, shoelace width, shoelace colors, and even shoelace emotional impact. They discussed whether a shoelace was still a shoelace if it was untied, or only when it was tied. When the clock struck 3 p.m., they still had not decided anything. So they scheduled another meeting. The next day, they met again, discussed the exact same things in the exact same way. Not quickly, not slowly, just steadily. After 5 days, they officially declared shoelaces important enough to tax, but not important enough to talk about anymore. So, the shoelace tax law was passed. The result? Each person had to pay 1/2 penny for every shoelace they owned. Not per pair, per lace. So if someone had one shoe with one lace, they still had to pay. Sometimes people would ask, what if one lace is shorter than the other? The answer was always, we don't know. Please fill out Form B17S. People accepted it. No protests, no celebrations, just acceptance. Life continued. People tied their shoelaces each morning. They walked to the shoemaker. They paid their 1/2 penny. They went home. A month later, the government realized they had collected exactly 31 pennies and 4 buttons, because some people didn't have pennies and paid in buttons instead. The government had no use for the buttons, so they placed them in a box labeled buttons. And that was that. Nothing changed. People still tied their shoelaces. Shoes remained shoes. Life went on, slowly, quietly, and uneventfully. And thus ended the entirely unremarkable story of the shoelace tax law of 1849. The end. In the year 1873, in the extraordinarily average town of North Littleford, something happened that wasn't exciting, wasn't dramatic, and wasn't even mildly interesting. It was, however, very long, unnecessarily detailed, and definitely the perfect story to fall asleep to. North Littleford was a quiet town, not too rich, not too poor, not too big, not too small. It had 412 people, 39 horses, 26 chickens, and exactly 1 government inspector named Mr. Archibald Barebone. Mr. Barebone had a job. Not a glamorous job, not a dangerous job, but a very serious, very slow, very methodical job. He was the official rope-length inspector. His duty? To measure every rope in town, to make sure that every rope was exactly as long as it claimed to be. Not longer, not shorter, exactly correct. Each morning, Mr. Barebone walked to work. He always left his house at 7:04 a.m., not 7:03, not 7:05, 7:04 exactly. He always took 46 steps to the gate, 59 steps to the old elm tree, and 112 steps to the town hall door. He kept count every single day. He logged it into his leather notebook titled Daily Rope and Step Record Book, Volume 1. On Monday, April 14, 1873, a historic day arrived, the day of the annual official rope inspection ceremony.
The townspeople gathered, not because they were excited, not because they were curious, but because there was free tea and plain biscuits. The meeting began at 9 a.m. exactly, followed by complete silence. Mr. Barebone stood up slowly, not too quickly, not too dramatically, just slowly. He cleared his throat, once, then again, then a third time, softly. He removed his hat, folded his reading glasses, and opened his notebook. He began reading the official rope regulations. Not the short version, not the summary, but all 77 pages, line by line, word by word. He explained what qualifies as a rope. He explained what does not qualify as a rope. He explained what used to be a rope, but is now considered rope-like string material under Section 14, Paragraph 3, Subsection 2E. People nodded calmly, not excitedly, not angrily, just normally. Then the inspection began. The first rope was measured. It was officially labeled as 3 feet and 2.5 inches. But when measured, it turned out to be 3 feet and 2.25 inches. The town gasped, but very quietly. Mr. Barebone gently said, "This rope is acceptable, but not exemplary." He wrote it down in neat, looping handwriting. Inspection continued. Rope after rope after rope. Some were too long, some were too short. Some were actually shoelaces. One was just a wet piece of spaghetti. At exactly 2 p.m., they paused for tea. Not earlier, not later. Everyone had the same snack, a cup of warm tea with a plain, flavorless biscuit. No sugar, no milk, no excitement. People discussed ropes, slowly. One man said he once owned a rope that was almost 4 feet long. Another responded, A third replied, "Interesting." No one laughed, no one cried, no one felt anything too strongly. They just continued discussing ropes in the most normal and uneventful way possible. After tea, the inspection resumed for 3 more hours. Finally, Mr. Barebone reached the last rope. He held it up, looked at it carefully, and after a long dramatic pause that wasn't really dramatic, he declared, "This rope is slightly above average." The town nodded, not in joy, not in sadness, just in agreement. The inspection was over. The townspeople slowly walked home, not quickly, not slowly, just normally. And Mr. Barebone returned to his desk, sat down, opened a fresh notebook titled Daily Rope and Step Record Book, Volume 2, and wrote, "In a very normal town called Plainfield, something extraordinary never happened. The town was not special, not historical, not exciting. It was just there. The roads were not too busy, not too empty. People walked, but not quickly. They didn't run, they didn't stop. They just walked. There was a man named Mr. Benson. He was not old, not young, just a comfortable middle age. He wore shirts that were not too colorful, not too dull, mostly beige, sometimes gray, just shirts. Every morning he woke up at 6:48 a.m., not because of an alarm, not because of a plan, but because he always woke up at 6:48. He wasn't proud of it. He wasn't sad about it. He just accepted it. He sat up. He blinked. Once, then twice, then once more. He stretched, but not fully. just a little stretch. He looked out his window. The sky was not blue, not gray. Somewhere in between, just sky. He saw a bird. It was not flying. It was not singing. It was just sitting. The bird looked at Mr. Benson. Mr. Benson looked at the bird. Nothing happened. They both looked away. He went downstairs. He made tea. Not strong, not weak. Just tea. He stirred it 3 times clockwise, 2 times anti-clockwise. Why? He didn't know. He just always did. He took a sip. The taste was fine. Just fine. He opened the window and said, No one heard him. But even if they did, no one would react. He left his house at 8:22 a.m. Not 8:20, not 8:30. Always 8:22. The neighbors didn't notice. Even if they did, they wouldn't care. He walked to the local general store. It was called General Goods, not because it sold everything, but because the name felt appropriate. Not great, not bad, just appropriate. Inside, the shop owner, Mr. Clark, stood behind the counter, not sitting, not slouching, just standing. Mr. Benson said, "Good morning." Mr. Clark said, "Morning." Then they were silent for 17 seconds. Mr. Benson looked at a shelf. He stared at a jar of biscuits. The biscuits stared back. Of course, they didn't, but it felt like they did. He did not buy the biscuits. He thought about it. He held them in his hand. Then his mind said, maybe tomorrow. He put them back. He bought a single pencil, not a pack, just one. He didn't need a pencil. He just liked how it felt. Neutral, average, moderately satisfying. He left the shop, walked past a bakery. He didn't enter. He didn't smell any bread. He just knew it was there. He passed a tree. The tree did not sway. There was no wind. It just stood there, just doing tree things. At 10:05 a.m., he arrived at the town park. He sat on a bench. Not the left bench, not the right one, the middle bench, perfectly centered. He sat still. A dog walked by. Not fast, not slow. Moderate dog speed. The dog looked at him. Mr. Benson looked back. The dog blinked. Mr. Benson blinked. Then, nothing else happened. At 11:32 a.m., he went home. He made lunch. Rice. Not too soft, not too hard. Moderate rice, with boiled potatoes. Not mashed, not crispy, just potatoes. He ate in silence. The clock ticked. Not loudly, not softly, just ticked. After lunch, he stared at the wall for 24 minutes. Not because he was sad, not because he was happy, but because it was there, and he had time. At 3:10 a.m., he watered a plant. He didn't know what kind of plant it was. It didn't have flowers. It didn't have fruits. It just existed, like him. He said to it, "You're doing fine." The plant did not respond, but maybe it agreed. At 5 p.m., he made more tea, stirred it the same way again, 3 times clockwise, 2 times anti-clockwise. Routine felt peaceful,
He sat by the window, watched people walking. No one ran, no one hurried. Nothing urgent, just life happening calmly. As the sun set, he whispered, "Today was okay. Not amazing, not terrible, just okay." And honestly, sometimes okay is perfect. Nothing more happened.
In a very unremarkable town called Stillborough, everything was comfortably normal. The houses were not tall, not short, just houses of acceptable height. The streets were not busy, not empty, just politely occupied. Nothing exciting ever happened, nor did anything terribly boring happen. Things simply were. In a pale beige house with slightly faded curtains lived Mrs. Evelyn Turner. She was not too old, not too young, just at a pleasant age where she owned 3 pairs of glasses and used only one. Every morning she woke up at 7:11 a.m. She did not use an alarm. Her eyes just quietly decided it was time. She stared at the ceiling. It stared back, neutrally. She blinked, once, then twice, then once more, just to be sure. She got out of bed and walked to the kitchen. Not quickly, not lazily. A perfect middle pace. She made oatmeal, not too thick, not too watery, perfectly, unapologetically average. She added 1½ raisins. She didn't know why. It just felt correct. She sat at her table. The oatmeal waited. The tea waited. Everything just waited. No one argued. She took a sip of her tea. It was neither sweet nor bitter, just tea. She did not love it. She did not hate it. She accepted it. At 8:26 a.m., she looked outside her window. A cat walked by. It didn't hurry. It didn't linger. It just walked. The cat was black, but not deeply black. More like Tuesday gray. Mrs. Turner waved at the cat. The cat blinked. That was the entire interaction. Later, she decided to visit the town library. Not because she needed a book, not because she was bored, but because it was Wednesday, and on Wednesdays she considered going to the library. Not always going, just considering was enough. It took her 9 minutes to walk there. Not 8, not 10, exactly 9. She didn't time it, she just knew. She entered the library. The door made no sound, not because it was silent, but because it did not feel the need to announce anything. Inside, a librarian named Mr. Rowan sat at the desk. He nodded. She nodded back. No words were spoken, but everything was understood. She walked past 3 bookshelves. Each one felt slightly different, but also somehow exactly the same. She picked up a book titled A Reasonably Detailed Study of Moderate Weather. She did not open it. She just held it. It felt neutral, comfortably acceptable. She placed it back, not because she disliked it, but because she felt no need to read it. The book understood. She sat in the reading room for 14 minutes. She did not read anything. She didn't think deeply. She just existed, in quiet agreement with time. At 11:40 a.m., she left the library and walked to the park. The trees were standing, the grass was present, everything was being exactly what it was meant to be. She sat on a bench.
Not the one near the fountain, not the one near the pigeons. The middle bench. Perfectly average. Near her, two elderly men played chess. They moved the pieces slowly, not to win, not to lose, simply to keep the game existing. One of them said, "Your move." The other said, "I know." And they continued. A leaf fell from a tree. Not quickly, not slowly, just reasonably. At 1:05 p.m., Mrs. Turner walked back home. She made herself a sandwich. Bread, cheese, cucumber. Not too crunchy, not too soft. Just sandwich. She ate half. The other half waited. She told it, maybe later. The sandwich did not mind. She sat by the window again. The same cat walked by. This time, the cat paused. It looked at her. She nodded. The cat nodded. Or maybe it just blinked. It didn't matter. At 6:15 p.m., she made one last cup of tea. Not warm, not hot. Exactly comfortably drinkable. She took a sip. She whispered, "Today was just right. Not exciting, not extraordinary, not disappointing. Simply right. And sometimes, right is perfect."